Hello, and welcome to the Here to Uplift Podcast, where we center the stories of impactful changemakers, entrepreneurs, and community leaders who have done the hard work of uplifting themselves through adversity to get where they are today, and now uplift others along the way in their journeys. I'm Lolo Fisher, your host, lover of all things wellness, healing, and empowerment, and I would greatly appreciate if you show us your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with others. Let's get into it. Welcome back, y'all, to the Here to Uplift podcast. I am with my special guest, Nicole Fuller, and we're actually in her luxury apartment complex in this beautiful space. I love rooftops, so I'm already happy. I know y'all can't see the rooftop, but we have a beautiful view from where we're talking, so this is going to be a good one. Nicole, I would love for you to introduce yourself and just tell folks like what you do.
Okay, so my name is Nicole Fuller. I am a personal injury attorney. I just recently opened up my own law firm, the Law Office of Nicole N. Fuller, and I am located in downtown Oakland.
Perfect. So we actually met at the HVN event. Was our first time, right?
Yes.
Okay, and now we've seen each other at multiple HVN events, and of course, lots of work happening in the process. But at the time, you had just told me, like, I'm going out on my own, I'm doing my own thing, starting my own law firm. When did that start and why?
So that actually started January 25th. 2023.
She got specific.
Exactly. I specifically know that day because that's also the same day that I no longer have my job at a bigger law firm. So that day I kind of decided, like, you know, I don't think that I want to go back to another firm or work for anybody else. I want to try to do it for me. So at that point, I kind of just was like, look, I think I'm going to just, you know, bet on myself.
Yeah. Then it's only been months. So how has this like initial part of the journey been going for you?
So it's actually been going really, really good. You know, I do like being my own boss. Of course, it has challenges because, you know, as an attorney, you're kind of thinking only on the attorney level, like, but starting my own firm, I have to think of like the business level too. Yes. So that was something that I didn't think of. I'm like, I'm everything to my firm. I'm like the accountant, the IT, everything like that you don't really consider. So it's coming along though. It's going a lot better than I thought.
I feel like that's the first year of being an entrepreneur in general. You have to learn, what's the phrase? How to work not in your business, but on your business.
Yes.
Right? And so many folks miss that. And I think like, fail just from overwhelm or burnout in that first year because they're trying to do both.
Right.
I'm trying to create my business, work on it, and work in it, and it's exhausting.
Right. That was actually not a phrase that I learned until maybe like 2 weeks ago. So,
really?
Yeah, really. I hired a coach.
Okay.
He's a personal injury attorney. He's been helping me so far. He's had his own firm for like 11 years now.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to show you how to work on your business and in your business. I was like, what? What is that? Okay, yeah. So there are separate things. So, yeah.
Yeah. Which actually aligns with something we were talking about today, like at lunch, because we were talking about how, you know what, this can be across any field, but in law, at least, like when you're working for these big firms, it's like almost an expectation in a culture that you are burning yourself out for the company. Like you're just constantly working late nights, late hours, and like, this is what we need to get billable hours, But if that's not the lifestyle you want, like it seems like your options are limited, but you've kind of defied that and been like, no, that's not the case.
Exactly. So as you said, like working in those big law firms, they're going to work you to death. They want those hours. And and they don't care. They're like, they will call you every hour of the day, the weekends. They don't care. They don't care about you having a family or a social life or even just taking a break, even though they'll tell you that during the interview. We want a nice work-life balance, but that is not the truth. So yeah, I'm like, for me, I believe that you do need that balance, and of course it's important to have a job, but then you still need to take care of yourself too at the same time. So me having my own firm is allowing me to create that balance. I know I just started, but you know, at points where I might get overwhelmed with learning new things, I can sit and take a break. As opposed to when I was like at the firm, it's like you don't have a time to take a break. You have to just keep going. So
I feel like that comes from a place of wisdom though. So I'm like kind of curious, did you have to burn out first to come to that conclusion that you don't want to live that lifestyle, or was it just seeing other people deal with it?
No, it came from myself.
You're like, I always been bougie, all right?
I'm a firm believer. I don't think I was put on this earth to work. So if I have after work, I might as well be doing something I like and then enjoying my life, you know? Even before I went to law school, like when I was working in like corporate America, I would get off the BART and I'm walking and I'm like, these people look so miserable. Like, I don't want to live my life being miserable, you know? So for me, it's really important for me to be happy in whatever it is that I do.
Yes.
And I really do love the law. So I'm happy with what I'm doing.
Yay. Okay, tell me why. Why do you love the law?
So I love the law, number one, because I love to learn.
Okay.
But specifically, I love to help people. So I went to law school to be a public defender. So that was pretty much my path. Even before I went to law school, I was like working at their offices and doing that type of stuff. You know, because obviously a lot of people know that Black and brown people are affected by the system way differently. And then when you go to the courts, you have people who do not look like you, representing you, on the other side against you, defending you, those type of things, the judge. Like, there's really nobody else in that courtroom that looks like you.
Right.
You know, so I wanted to put myself in that space and looking just like them too. Like, you see, I have my nails, I wear my braids. I am, you know, a true, authentic myself showing up, because I feel like being a representative of what I look like, you know, it can take the stereotype off of a lot of things too.
I bet. I mean, even when, like, for me, like, having this first baby, I was nervous as heck about having the right OB. And, like, we know about, you know, Black maternal health not being so hot, especially in the U.S. in general. But in California, like, how many Black women's stories are not listened to, not cared for, right? And I was truly concerned. Like, it made me anxious. So when I randomly got assigned an OB and she was a Black woman who is brilliant and just gets it, I was like, thank you, God, thank you so much. Like, it made me so happy. So I can only imagine too, like, if I'm going through legal trouble, to see someone like me takes off so much of that, like, stress and concern and worry. Because it's like, not only am I fighting this case, but sometimes I'm also fighting whoever's representing me, like, whatever bias might come. And, like, to take that away is just like, now I can just fight the real issue. Right.
And I have seen that sense of relief on people's faces. Like, they just instantly, like, believe that I'm going to be there to help them. Like, even when I was an intern and I was shadowing somebody. And it was this Black guy, and he came in there for, like, a consultation for his case. This is a criminal case. And so when I was leaving, I happened to see that same guy outside, and he was like, well, do you know about this guy? Like, is he going to have my back? I was like, you know what? I really don't know him like that, but I know a lot of the people in the office do good work. But for him to feel comfortable,
to ask
not even knowing me, to come to me, you know, and be like, okay, I know you will probably have my back, so let me know what's, you know, what's going on. And that's kind of how I feel with everything, like, right now. Like, even though I switched from criminal to personal injury, I still look at all my clients as family. I'm going to tell you, you know, the real things, you know, not sugarcoat anything. I'm always there to help with any questions, even if it's not related to what we're working on.
Right, you know? Right. Did you have, I want to say Black women, but really any Black lawyers that you watched and aspired to be like when you were going through your training and schooling and such?
I will say that at one point, when I was working in Contra Costa Public Defender's Office, I did have a mentor there. And having somebody who looks like you and wants to help you can elevate you. When I tell you that she came and got me from, we had like a little bullpen where all the interns were. She came and got me from that bullpen and was like, I'm taking you everywhere. You want to work on this, you want to do this, you want to do that. She was taking me to the jails, had me doing hearings, everything like that. So
that's powerful.
Yeah, it really was, you know, and I will still talk to her to this day, you know, just having that support of somebody who looks like you. So.
Yeah. Okay, what are like 2 or 3 things that she taught you or that you learned from her being mentored by her that you would like pass on to other Black lawyers? Or really anybody for that matter.
She kind of taught me to, like, you know, be brave when it comes to last minute things. She would give me stuff at the last minute, like, you could do it, you know, have confidence, you could do it. And I was, you know, she gave me something to do, like a hearing or something. And I knew nothing about the case. I had to write all this stuff. The hearing was like 2 days away. I'd never done it before. And she was like, you got it. You know, so, and then having her tell me about my writing. So, and in a kind but, like, what is this kind of way? So it's like, you know, passing on those lessons of like, okay, you're not going to always be perfect, but I'm here to help you, you know, and this is what you need to fix. So those kind of things, being gentle in teaching, because even though, you know, me being an attorney on that side, like, they still don't, you know, respect you in all aspects. So.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
Maybe opinion too, but I feel like you look really young too, so I'm sure that's like hard for people to, I don't know why I'm saying hard. It shouldn't be hard for people to take you seriously, but I know naturally, just the way our systems work, people will probably give you a hard time for that.
Yes, people think that I'm a lot younger than I am. I am still young. But right. But they do. They've always thought that. People are like, you have such a baby face. So like when I started my firm and I was telling people, oh, I have my own law firm, they're like, you don't even look like you're old enough to be a lawyer. I'm like, I am.
Like, know? I've been doing the work, all right.
So you kind of have to like reassure them, you know. So some people kind of still have their doubts, but when they ask questions and I'm able to answer them without him and hawing, you know, that kind of stuff, to let them know I have experience, I understand what you're talking about, then it kind of gives them a little bit more confidence.
That makes sense. Okay. So I'm curious, did you do other work before getting into law, or has it always been like social justice, law?
So my undergrad major was criminal justice. I always wanted to be an attorney. But after graduating from undergrad, it didn't go as, you know, necessarily planned. Right. So I spent a lot of time in like doing retail. I worked at Comcast, I worked at Wells Fargo. And then I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. This is not what I want to do. This is not what my degree was in. Let me just, you know, keep going. But what I will say though, is working in customer service helped me a lot to deal with different people and their personalities and all that, and have a lot of patience.
Especially if you said Comcast. Comcast has heard it from me.
No, seriously, people are more mad at Comcast than they are at their banks. I'm like, I got yelled at more at Comcast, but you can hang up on people, so that's fine.
But you can't really do that as a lawyer, like, in
no,
some sense,
you can't. You cannot do that, you know. They know who you are, they know where to find you, so it's a little different than working in a call center. But, you know, I have a lot more patience now, and I understand people's frustration, especially, like, I mean, you know, I was on the defense side earlier with criminal. So it's like, I understand, you know, why you might have your frustrations. And as we were speaking about earlier, why it's important to like educate your clients and things like that, especially in like criminal cases, like they want to know what's going on. This is affecting their life.
Right.
And a lot of the times people are like, oh, you know, maybe you won't have to do any jail time. It's not even only about that, because if you have this on your record, somebody pulls that and sees that, maybe you only did community service, but maybe you can't get that job anymore.
Right.
You know?
It affects other life choices and decisions.
Exactly. And people don't think about that. They're like, oh, well, you know, I don't have to do any jail time, or they didn't do any jail time. But it's like, it's not always about that. It's like the bigger picture, not just this moment. This is going to last a lifetime.
Right. That makes sense. Do you have like a most memorable client story that like maybe stemmed from this piece of like lack of education versus like I had to get them out of this situation?
So I don't have like a lack of education story, but I will share a client that I had. So I used to, when I was in law school, we went to Jackson, Mississippi. Okay. And we were working on capital cases. So people who are, you know, facing the death penalty. So there was one case that I was working on. It hadn't been a trial or anything yet. This was just the start of the case. It's a pretty big one. And so I actually heard about this case first on the news, right? So, you know, you already kind of have your, you know, perception. Exactly. Yeah. And then when I met the person, he's very young. And just talking to him, I was just like, oh, okay. You know what, the media will paint you one way, but this is a different person here. Yeah. And he was young. I believe he was like maybe 19, 20. Yes, exactly. Young. Very, very young. Oh my gosh. Facing the death penalty, right? So I asked him, I was like, well, what is it that you guys have to do out here? It's Jackson, Mississippi. He's like, there's nothing to do here. There's nothing to do. I'm like, okay, so that's why people get in trouble, you know? And so from that, it made me want to be like, okay, well, maybe there's people in the Bay that are like that. They don't really have much to do, and that's why they keep getting in trouble. So
what do they say? Idle hands are a devil's work or something like that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Because, especially Jackson, Mississippi. I don't know if you've ever been, but there's nothing to do. Eat, okay? So when I came back, it actually motivated me to start a mentoring program.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So my second year of law school, I started a youth mentoring program where it connected Black law students with kids who are going through the juvenile system in Alameda County. So,
Nice. Does it still exist today?
It only exists through me and my idea to bring it back. It was called STARS, Youth Mentoring, which stands for Sticking Together and Reaching Success.
Oh, yeah. I like that.
So, I do want to revamp that because I think it was really good. You know, it didn't end because it was a bad program. It ended because it was self-funded and it was going through.
That's
exactly.
hard. Yeah, it is. Say less.
Right. And going through the law school, the students they have school and they have their lives, so it's kind of hard, to create that balance. So I'm trying to bring it back in a different way.
Yeah. Have you heard of? Oh my gosh, don't blank on it right now. There's a nonprofit organization that I was actually recommended to get connected with just in terms of wanting to do a little bit more social justice work and some of the consulting work I've done. Babe, do you remember what it's called? I'm forgetting now. Yes, thank you. I was
what is it? Boss?
Boss, yeah.
I've never heard of it.
Boss. So let me think, building opportunities. I'm going to forget it right now, of course, because I'm pregnancy brain. But I am really interested in their programs right now because they've existed for over a decade, I believe, probably longer, but I know they're based in Oakland.
Oh, okay.
And they are focused more on the rehabilitation and reentry side. So while not necessarily the side of what happens when you're in the legal system, it's what happens when you're getting out and you're trying to get reintroduced to the world. And I know there's pockets in different organizations that do this work, but what I like about their organization is that right now they're actually trying to create this large community wellness center that
building opportunities for self-sufficiency.
There you go. Building opportunities for self-sufficiency. But they're trying to create this huge, I think they actually called it an empowerment and wellness center, so that all the resources are kind of in one place. So rather than having to go to this organization for legal help and this organization to get family resources and this one to try to get a job, they're trying to bring everything into one space and then also have those conversations about what does your actual health and wellness look like along the way.
Right.
And I'm fascinated by this because I think we don't support folks coming out of the system nearly as well as we have the capability to in the U.S.
Yeah, not enough. I believe the statistics are 80 to 85% of people who are in prison are coming home at some point. Yeah. So it's there's a lot of people who are going to need that kind of reentry. So that's definitely something that's important. It's I told you before when I was doing the resentencing, you know, people who have been incarcerated for 40, 50 years and then they get out and the world looks different.
Life is different now.
Seriously, because one of the people who I got resentenced, their job said they were a disco teacher. And I was that was their job prior to going to prison. So I'm okay.
You're we got to get you some options here.
Right.
Think about these transferable skills.
Right. So even just getting them acclimated to how life is these days, you know, for them, and it's different. So, I mean, I would definitely look into that program. I didn't know that was here.
Yeah. I'm shoot, I'm I could feel now you're talking about the mentorship piece, and I'm I don't know what they do specifically for the youth side or young adults that are also going through the system involved youth, whatever that looks like. But if they have a program, I could see you just benefiting them so much. So I'm gonna have to make those connections after when my pregnancy brain is off and I'm thinking again.
If you know somebody.
But yeah. Okay, cool. So I kind of want to jump a little bit, still related, but to the personal side and learn more about your own journey of healing and kind of what led you into this work. So I'm curious now, as a Black woman, as an attorney in Oakland, in the Bay Area, which is, it's a competitive area, right, that we're talking about. This is not it's the one lawyer of our city. There's people everywhere, right? You have to have a lot of confidence and strength within yourself to be fighting, essentially, to do this work and do it as an entrepreneur, solopreneur right now in the Bay Area. So what does that confidence journey look like in terms of, building yourself up? Because you already said, I was not put on this earth to work. I did not have that mindset immediately. I've been working and burning my butt out and burning out multiple times before I learned there's another way.
Yeah.
But I already get from you, I'm like, shoot, I wish I connected with Nicole earlier because she knew something I didn't know.
Right.
We have options.
Yeah. So I would say this journey came about as far as like opening up my own firm. Is that what you're asking?
Specifically on the confidence side, like building the confidence in yourself to make these choices, like opening your own firm, like living alone in the city, like these types of things.
I would have to say that kind of foundation actually came from my family.
Okay.
So I have a really, really great immediate family, like my mom, my dad, my sisters. They're very, very supportive of me in anything that I do, you know. So I feel like I've always been like that since I was younger. So I kind of carried that into my adult life to where I'm like, you know what, if it doesn't work, then I can pivot and try something else. So at a point, you know, of course, I had a problem with failure. I'm like, I don't want to fail. I don't want to, you know, that's why it took me actually so long to end up going to law school. It was, maybe 7 years between undergrad and going to actual law school. And it was not because I wasn't capable of going. It was just like, I don't want them to try to deny me and all of that. But I will say that once I was just like, you know what? I actually said this to myself before I applied. I said, what have you ever tried that you failed? You know, what have you ever really tried to do that you failed at? And I was like, nothing. You know? So, and I don't know if that's a good thing. Like, maybe you're not trying hard enough. But then I went and I applied to maybe 4 schools. I applied to 5. I got into 3.5 and got denied from 1. So, and then my first thing was, why didn't you do this a lot? Well, you could have been did this, you know? So, but I feel like I've kind of carried that confidence through everything that I've done. Like, yes, it's hard. It's definitely hard. It's not, I will never say that it's been an easy journey.
Right.
You know, just learning the law in and of itself. It's like learning a new language and then having all of these other things go into play. I will say post-law school, well, actually, even before that, some of my experiences are what led me to wanting to open up my own firm. Because despite the fact that I know certain things and I'm capable of doing certain things, people still treat me a certain way. And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
You know, I was working at an office when I was in criminal, working in the office with a lot of people. And then sometimes I would go to court and shadow. And these same people that I was working with were referring to me as the defendant in court.
Oh,
and I'm like, we work in the same office. We work in the same office. We sat and had lunch together 2 days ago, but you don't remember me. And these,
that's disrespectful.
Right. And these, unfortunately, are sometimes the people who are defending people who look like me.
Right.
So,
hence the problem. Okay.
Exactly. So, I felt like I was running into that in a lot of different stages. And I'm like, the only thing between not being a lawyer anymore and this is going to be opening my own firm.
Yeah.
Let's see how this goes.
And you were still passionate about the work, just not the systems in place.
100%. I've always been passionate about the work. Never at any moment have I ever been like, I don't like this work.
Yeah.
Not even from criminal to civil. Anything that I've done, I've loved it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Was your family involved in like social justice work or community activism growing up too?
You're like,
okay. So
where did it come from? Yes, it came from
somewhere.
somewhere. So when I was my mom has always been like a big activist, my grandparents, all of that. So I just remember growing up in Richmond, you know, they have a lot of refineries and stuff. And one of my youngest memories is when I used to be out there at the protests with signs, like little signs, like Chevron, stop, you're killing us, right? And I was,
wow.
even in the newspaper and everything. So I guess that is kind of like instilled in me to be like, all right, we have to, you know, kind of even out this system. So, yeah.
You know, it's interesting because when I was at, a few different places, but anytime I've done social justice education, like my role was literally coordinator for social justice education, interim director for social justice office, and people are like, what is social justice? And I think there's this picture of it only being activism because of, just thinking about our own generation, like when we're thinking about our parents and grandparents, it's the literal fight on the line, right? So people are like, what are you doing? Because I don't necessarily consider myself an activist. I have not been the person ever leading a protest. I've been involved in some, but I've never been the person on the forefront leading a protest, being on the line. But I I love talking to people about social justice work because there's so much that happens behind the scenes that people don't realize,
right,
including the law side. And one of the things that I've loved you sharing with me, like as I get to know you more, is this education piece. I love learning too, but I realize there's just so many gaps in my learning that I didn't learn in school, and also in our own communities and cultures.
Right.
We don't talk about it a lot.
Right.
And I think the legal system is one of those things. Like, you learn the branches of the government, you get a little test on it, U.S. American history or whatever, but how we actually live and operate according to the legal system, like, we don't even understand the bare minimum sometimes.
And it's
culturally.
designed that way. It's designed for you not to understand it, because if people understood the laws the way that they are, you would be richer. Let's just start there. You have a lot more money, a lot more going on. You know, knowledge, as they say, is power, and that's true. You know, I went to law school, and when I read some of these things, I'm like, what does this even say? So I can just imagine somebody who was like, you know. So it's designed that way. So that's why I want to kind of change that and say, okay, well, even if it's something that I can't teach, like personal injury, I can teach you about that, you know. But if it's something more complex about contracts or something like that, you can bring it to me.
Yeah.
Maybe I can help read it and help you to understand it a little bit more, you know. That's my whole purpose. All we can do is
try, you know. All we can do is try. But seeing our
exactly.
community get more informed and be uplifted and empowered to make decisions for themselves.
Exactly.
Like, to me, that's part of the work of social justice. It's not always about fighting the power necessarily, but a lot of times it's just about even knowing what power to fight.
Even knowing what power to fight, and even knowing that there is somebody who will fight for you. You know, because a lot of the times people are like, I don't feel like dealing with that.
Hopeless.
I don't want to do. I don't have the time. You know, people have to work. I don't have the time for that. I'm like, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead and give us that. And so I try to get that information out there more.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, are you single?
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, depends on who you ask. She's like, well, when is this interview being released? Because, you know, well, I'll have some time.
You know, a few people leaned in to hear that answer. Okay. I
said, yes, this is a video podcast as well. So if somebody's just listening, they're going to hop on YouTube now and be like, you know what? Let me go check out this black woman lawyer. Hold on.
No, I am.
You are. Mm-hmm. Is that by choice, or is that just, you know, this season?
So it's by choice, and it is more so this season too, because I am trying to build, you know, and it's harder to do when you are in a dating phase. Like, maybe if I was already with somebody and it's been a few years, but just try to go out and meet people and date and do that, I don't.
Like, if I'm going out to meet people, it's to network right now.
Exactly, and that's what you can find me at a networking event. I will be
you
there.
Never know. You never. That is not an invite for people watching this to just come with an ulterior motive, all right?
It what are you coming with? Okay, don't waste my time now.
I'm done. Okay, that makes sense though. Right. It makes sense. When I started this studio, I was definitely in that phase of like not interested in dating at all whatsoever. Like, I don't got time for this. As my therapist called it, she's like, you're having a baby. Like, the studio was my baby, right? Like, when you start a business, you're giving it so much time and attention. It's your baby for a while. So I get it. Yeah. But you might be surprised because you never know when they show up. Right?
Hey, I'm still open for it. I'm just not looking no more, so you know.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, I have another random question. Have you ever felt broken?
Yeah. You want me to go into that?
I do. If you're willing to, I want to hear it.
Well, it goes back into what I was saying before about, you know, like that fear of failure, and I was just like, oh, I don't want to fail. I went through a deep time in my life where it was just like, you know what, this is not what it was supposed to look like. You know, I was around like 26, 27. And, you know, people are kind of like, you're supposed to be married by 30. You're supposed to have kids and a house. And I'm just like, that's only a few years away. What am I doing wrong? You know, so during that time, I kind of felt like that.
Expectations.
Exactly. Societal expectations, who are created by who and for what reason.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, like, to this day, I'm just like, nope, forget that. You know, so I went through that And I'm glad that I did it that long ago, because, sometimes people go through that for a very, very long time. And for me, I'm like, at that point is what helped me to pivot to, go to school and all of that and be where I am here today. So I'm like, I disregard all the social norms and things like that and do whatever I feel is best for me. So yes, I have been in a place where I have been broken, but fortunately it was a long time ago, because I was able to shift my mind and keep it there. I'm in such a positive space. Like, I smile like 90% of the time. I'm happy.
Wow.
So it's like,
that's huge. That's an accomplishment right there.
And I love it. Like,
especially like, I think, the phrase the soft life, and how that is becoming more and more popular. Like, people say soft girl era, the soft life, all these things. But in reality, what that looks like to me is just having this strong peace of mind and sense of fulfillment with your day-to-day life. It's not about this big, I'm doing this huge thing and this huge thing, but like in your day-to-day, when you wake up in the morning, like, are you pleased with yourself? Like, are you pleased with your life and the choices you're making?
Oh, absolutely. So one phrase that Beyonce said in her song, like, my aspiration is to be happy. And that's all I aspire to be. Like, if it's something that's not making me happy and I have the ability to change it or to move away from it, then I will do that, So yeah, when I wake up in the morning, I like to make it to the gym if I can.
Beautiful gym here.
I like to have like a little routine and then go there and like meditate and look out on the world, and then just, start my day. So if I ever feel like, sometimes things can be overwhelming, so I like to go hike. Like, you can find me in nature, and that just like resets me. I'll go sit by the water. That's a reset,
Yep.
So, yeah.
Integrating that and making that choice, I think, is foreign for a lot of people. I don't know what it was like growing up for you, and like if that transformed over time or if it's always been this way, but I definitely feel like I have this conversation with folks who are like, I didn't even consider like doing that in the morning. I didn't consider having that in my day, because culturally they didn't see that growing up. They just saw work, take care of the family, like, done. And it's like, but how are you taking care of yourself?
I will say that I learned that later. Because my parents, my dad, he's an engineer by trade. He used to work for NASA. And my mom, he doesn't do that now. He's in real estate. He has his own real estate company. And then my mom, she had her own business growing up. So I saw like the entrepreneur side, which is why it was probably a little bit easier for me to see, because I'm like, I saw my parents do it. And now for me, if I see them working for somebody else, I'm like, that looks weird. I'm not used to that. Why are they? Who are you answering to? No, that's not right for you. So I think that's probably, what helped me to be like, okay, I saw it work for them, so I know it can work for me too. But
sometimes that's all we need is a little representation to be able to see it first. And like, oh, I could do that too.
Yeah. And they took those breaks too. They would take vacations and leave us like deuces. We went on some of them, but they was traveling the world. So I saw those breaks. Wow. So I would say that they've been great examples. My parents have been married for 45 years now. So
shoot, I need to get them on the podcast. Like, tell me all the secrets. Like,
I don't think you want
what
that.
What are the secrets to love? Secrets to lasting like that. I love that.
Right. Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yay. Okay, so, as we start bringing this to a close, I always like coming up with like what the deepest things for you are, and then like what you would give away in terms of that mentorship, because you talked about having a mentor and how powerful that was for you in your journey in law, which this is a random question, but if I say lawyer and attorney, is that the same thing?
It is the same thing.
It is. I'm always like curious of that. Like, am I being disrespectful in saying lawyer versus attorney?
No, it's the same.
I had to. So I guess my curiosity would be, if you were to talk to Nicole when she was starting
law school.
Oh, okay. What would you tell her then, now that you've been doing this and worked in the experience? Like,
I don't know. I would tell her,
hold on.
Look, right, like, if you're going to do this, it's going to be challenging, it's very challenging, but you got this, So I would tell her that, and tell my future self that, we're coming for you. We're holding it down at this point so we can make a better life here in the future too.
Yeah.
So,
What do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy, To make a positive change and a positive impact. And I don't need everybody asks me, are you going to get a billboard? I have no desire to be on a billboard. I don't have a desire to be known. I just want the work to be done. Yeah. You know, like as I worked before, getting people resentenced and stuff like that, you don't never even need to know that I was the one who did it or anything like that, just as long as these people are able to get back to their families and things. Yeah. So just making a change, a real positive change in the community.
I love that. Yeah. Okay, 2 more questions.
Yes.
What do you wish more people knew about the legal system?
I don't know, because I'm like, what I know about it is what everybody knows. It's difficult. I would say this: you can get involved more than you think you can. You know, people are looking at these higher people in power, like the president and things like that, but you can get involved more so on a local level and then kind of work your way up too. Okay. So I think that when people, especially here in Oakland, you want to see changes, you have to actually do more than just look at your screen and say, this needs to stop. You actually need to get out in the community, figure out who's making these local decisions, and work to change that.
Yeah. Okay. Then the last piece would be, what advice would you give to young Black girls out there who might be listening to your story now and this work that you're doing and be like, I want to do that. I want to be like her. What would you tell them?
Well, my advice would be to definitely find a mentor. Because you're going to need it. And even if she doesn't necessarily look like you, because my mentors in the beginning of law school didn't look like me, but they were still there to help me. They wanted to see me succeed. So regardless, find somebody who you trust, who you can be yourself around, and they allow you to be you. Yeah, that would pretty much be my advice. And if you need any help from me, I can help, you know.
I love that.
I'm here to help. You know, people are like, you know, a lot of times people say that and they don't really mean it, but I do. So it's like, I know how hard it is, and if I can alleviate that for somebody else, make it a little bit easier for them, then I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. And really, there's a lot of people out there who will say it and not follow up with their words, but I think even just in the moments of getting to know you and the more we spend time together, I'm like, your character shines in your behavior. You know what I mean? Like, what you say is what you do, and just your spirit is so calming to people that I'm like, shoot, if I ever go through some legal issues, I'll be like, Nicole! Nicole, come get me! Talk to me! But you really do have a way of naturally building trust with people. I love it.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that I feel trustworthy.
Yeah, you do. Okay, is there anything else you want to share that's on your heart today?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But thank you for this. This was amazing. I've never done this before.
That's what I was just about to say. I was like, this was her first podcast.
This was my first podcast, but I am a lawyer and a Leo. Yeah. A lawyer and a Leo, and we love to talk about ourselves.
You know, when I said where'd that confidence come from, you could have just been like,
Leo. Right. I guess that would have answered it right there. But yeah, so.
I love it. But thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to keep learning, like, from your social media and just the education work that you're doing right now about our legal system and our options and choices. But in this sense, you know, the podcast is really more about the journey to success, and it's like beautiful to hear the pieces of your story and how important family examples really impact our life choices. Like, I think that was a big piece I got from you today.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you.
That's it, girl. So the last bit of this is, please tell people where they can find you.
You can find me on, I have Instagram at Attorney N Fuller. And then I also have a website, nnfullerlaw.com.
Perfect. That's it, y'all. Thanks for listening. Thank you for tuning in to the Here to Uplift podcast. New episodes are airing every week with some bonus episodes in between too. So make sure you stay tuned by subscribing, following, liking, and engaging with us to let us know what topics you're most interested in and what might inspire you along this journey. We're going to keep working hard on our end because we are here to uplift not only ourselves, but our community too, and that includes you. So I can't wait for you to hear the next episode. But for now, do your thing, let's get it, and let's keep moving forward. Uplift yourself, friends. You got this.